Welcome to Darnley Cyber Cafe, your digital information haven for coffee aficionados. In an age where data is currency and every click could be a threat, knowledge is your greatest defense. I'm your host, Darnley Gresson Jr., and this is the podcast where we illuminate the dark corners of our digital world. Join us as we navigate the ever-changing currents of cybersecurity news, IT security, and the latest in the cyber landscape. Whether you're a seasoned IT professional, a business executive, or just curious about the forces shaping our digital future, Darnley Cyber Cafe is your digital coffee house guiding you through the noise. I'm here to break down the headlines, decode the jargon, and deliver actionable insights to protect your data, your business, and your peace of mind. So, fasten your digital seatbelts and prepare to embark on a journey through the ever-shifting world of cyber threats, news, and IT security. Darnley Cyber Cafe, your digital information haven for coffee aficionados, starts now. Episode 85. Home Router Chinese Botnet. Today, we're diving into something that affects all of us who use the internet. And let's be honest, that's pretty much everyone. We're talking about hacked routers. Yes, those little boxes of lights that connect your devices to the internet, and how they're being used in a large-scale cyber attack. You might not think twice about your home router, but hackers certainly do. Let's get into why that is, how hackers are exploiting personal routers, and what we can do to protect ourselves and, by extension, the broader digital world. So what's going on with these hacked routers? So there's a situation. Thousands of TP-Link routers, along with other internet-connected devices like cameras, have been hacked and pulled into what is called a botnet. Now, a botnet is a network of devices that hackers control remotely, without the owners even knowing. These devices are used for malicious purposes, often as a part of a large-scale cyber attack. Now, recently, Microsoft has raised the alarm about one particular botnet, made of thousands of hacked routers. It's being used to launch a password spraying attack, which is a sophisticated type of attack where hackers try out common passwords across a large number of accounts, hoping to find one that sticks. Now, this particular botnet, called Convert Network 1658, was discovered last year and has grown to include more than 8,000 infected devices. At its peak, there were over 16,000 routers and devices involved, which is a staggering number. What's even more worrying is that it's being used by hackers linked to the Chinese government. These cybercriminals are targeting high-profile organizations, but the tools they use to do their nasty deed often come from our personal devices, things we have in our very homes. How are these routers being used? Now, here's how it works. Hackers gain control of your router, often by exploiting weak security, like default passwords or outdated software or firmware, and they add it to their botnet. Just think of like little recruitment soldiers. These recruitment zombies is more, I kind of like to put it. Now, from there, they use to send thousands of passwords to break into accounts, particularly those on cloud services like Microsoft Azure. This way, they do it is very clear. They just use a few login attempts per device so that they don't trigger any alarms. This makes their activity hard to detect, allowing them to keep trying passwords without getting caught. Now, what's particularly interesting, or you can say frightening, about this botnet is that it's set up to be highly evasive. It changes the IP addresses it uses frequently, making it even harder to track. Think of it like a burglar who keeps changing their disguise so that they don't get recognized by security cameras. So what's the personal impact and why should you care? At this point, you might be thinking, okay, Darnley, but this seems like something that only affects big companies, right? Wrong. It affects all of us in several important ways and always has been for many years now. Number one, your privacy is at risk. When your router is hacked, it's not just about slow internet speeds. Hackers can potentially see that what websites you visit or even intercept your sensitive information. They could even monitor your online activity without you ever knowing. Number two, data theft. If a hacker has access to your router, They might be able to gather personal information like your passwords, bank details, or anything else you do online. This can lead to identity theft or even major financial loss. Number 3, your device could be used for cyber attacks. Now, when hackers control your router, they just don't use it to attack large corporations like Microsoft or Amazon or Google. They might use it to attack other individuals too. Your home network could become a tool in launching attacks against banks, government, or even your critical infrastructure that you even use. And that has a real world consequences for everyone. Don't be one of those people. Number 4, internet slowdowns. If your router is part of a botnet, it could be busy sending malicious traffic to other networks, causing yours to slow down. It's like your router is working double shifts without you realizing it. In addition, your internet service provider could even shut down your internet due to the exponential increase in traffic. Now, on the cybersecurity side, how do they do it? Now, let's take a look at how these routers get hacked in the first place. In many cases, hackers exploit weak points, like default settings that people forget to change, which in my perspective happens way more than I like to report. This is especially common in older models of routers that are not updated or patched by the user. Once they gain access, they install malicious software that turns the router into a tool for the botnet. Now, here's what typically happens. 1, hackers first gain access by downloading malware onto the router through common vulnerabilities. Number 2, they use tools like Telnet, a communication protocol, to open a backdoor that gives them full control of the router. Number 3, from there, they install additional tools that allow them to send commands and control the device remotely, often without any visible impact on the user. And the scary part? These infections are usually hard to detect. Many routers don't have these built-in security measures to alert you when something is wrong. So what can you do to protect yourself? The things you can do to keep your home router from becoming part of a botnet. Here are some practical steps that anyone can follow. Number 1, change your router's default password. Now, many people don't realize that their routers come with a default password, which can be easily found online. Changing this to something stronger or more complicated is one of the simplest ways to protect your device. Don't be lazy, just do it. The reason I say this is because most home users just use the router that the internet service provider provides to them when they light up their internet connection. Keep in mind that statistically, these routers, these modem router combinations, are typically dispersed through many of these ISPs all over the world or in the geographic area. So if you think about it, if a cyber criminal wants to affect a specific make and model of a modem router that exists out there from a major internet service provider, they already have all the tools for it because it's basically mass produced. So by changing things like your default password, you effectively eliminate one of the ways that these criminals can access your common router. Now, going on to number 2, update your firmware. Now, just like your phone or computer, your router also needs to be updated to fix security issues. It's best to check with your router's manufacturer or your internet service provider to see if there are any updates available and to install them. Enable WPA3 encryption. Make sure your Wi-Fi network is using the latest encryption standard, WPA3. This helps secure your data as it moves across the network. If your router does not have this, just purchase a new one that has its support for the WPA3. Now, this is something that I get a lot of kickback for, especially when people are tight on money. I understand routers aren't the cheapest things out there, but for a few $100, you'll be able to manage your own router and assure that you have the proper encryption. Number 4, reboot your router regularly. Some malware that infects routers cannot survive a reboot, meaning a simple on-off power cycle can clear it out temporarily. Now, understand this is not a long-term solution, and you should probably dig a bit deeper. But it helps if you are concerned. But personally speaking, you should reboot your router anyway, so to help kind of flush out things and keep your network running optimally. And there's ways, I've seen most routers where you can set reboot cycles that's included in the software of the manufacturer, or you can log into your router and do it yourself. Number 5, separate your networks. Now, this is a very interesting and something we should be doing on all of our networks, and most newer routers can support this. If you have smart devices, which we all do this day and age, things such as cameras or smart speakers, consider putting them on a separate network from your main devices like your phone and laptop. This limits the damage if one device is hacked. It's also a great idea to purchase a secondary router, like I said earlier, one that your internet provider has not provided you. Again, the reason for this is some routers that are provided by ISPs don't have network segmentation. You're not able to separate the Wi-Fi networks or the actual physical networks from each other. Like I said earlier, in the best ways to separate your networks, it's good practice, especially if you have guests coming into your network or devices you don't know. It's always good to have those segmentations to avoid any issues from arising or to not affect all your devices. So, for example, if your children have tablets or computers, put them on a separate network. If you work from home, put that on a separate network. If you have cameras, smart devices, put it on a separate network. This is why I keep saying, always, always, always use a third-party router that has most of the security protocols and protections in place, and don't strictly rely on your internet service provider device. Now, moving on, the broader impact here, why we all need to be vigilant. Now, it's not just about protecting your own home network. When large botnets like this one form, they don't just affect the organizations being attacked, they affect everyone. For example, if a botnet brings down a major cloud service, such as Microsoft, Amazon, or Google, this can impact businesses, schools, and even healthcare systems that rely on these services. The ripple effects are huge. And understand that many of these larger corporations use cloud-based solutions these days anyways, and cyber attackers understand and know this. So they look at what you have and your devices and use it in mass against these organizations. Now, by securing your own devices, you're helping reduce the size of these botnets, making it harder for attackers to launch attacks on a massive scale. It's like cleaning up your little corner of the internet so that everyone else can stay a little safer too. Now, to wrap things up, keep in mind, this is a reminder that even the smallest devices in our home can play a role in a much bigger global cybersecurity issue. Just taking a few simple steps to secure your router and other devices isn't just only about protecting yourself. It's about contributing to the security of the entire internet. I've seen and experienced my fair share of compromised home and work routers that add to the cyber attacks in the world. So don't be one of those people who simply don't want to care enough to take the basic precautions to secure your network. Trust me, you do not need to be a cyber expert or really know the deep technical depths of your routing device to protect yourself. Remember, cyber criminals always go for the lowest hanging fruit. By following these simple steps, this will put you ahead of many who fail or don't realize to do this. Now remember, stay vigilant, keep your devices updated, and share this episode with anyone who might need a nudge to take their home network security more seriously. Until next time, stay safe and don't let your router fall into the wrong hands. Thank you for listening to this episode of Darling Cyber Cafe. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for weekly episode releases, because in the world of cybersecurity, knowledge is power. Oh, while you're still here, don't forget, there are no strangers here. Next time you come back to the cafe, bring your friend. I'll see you soon. Cheers.